Welcome to the world of science fiction, where extraordinary tales come to life. Enjoy the journey. Henry Westbrook's transport pod docked with a metallic thunk against the gleaming hull of the Galactic Eternity Academy. The sprawling orbital complex hung suspended in the void, circling a brilliant F-class star that bathed everything in harsh white light. Through the viewport, massive training vessels and sleek fighters drifted like predatory fish around the station's central spire. A lump formed in his throat. How the hell did he end up here? Some bureaucratic error had landed him, a regular human from Earth, admission to the most prestigious military academy in the galaxy. The acceptance hologram had arrived 3 weeks ago, and despite knowing it was a mistake, Henry couldn't resist the opportunity. His father's voice echoed in his head. Westbrooks don't back down from a challenge. The airlock hissed open. Henry grabbed his duffel bag and stepped into the reception chamber. The Academy's cavernous arrival hall teemed with alien life. Towering reptilian Drakthars with armored plates stretching their uniforms. Willowy sylphids who seemed to float rather than walk. A group of crystalline proxians whose bodies refracted the light into dazzling patterns across the polished floor. And not a single human in sight. A holographic instructor materialized before him. Species identification. Human. Name. Henry Westbrook. The AI's tone conveyed surprise, even disapproval. Proceed to Orientation Chamber B7 for processing and Academy regulations briefing. Henry swallowed hard. Thanks. Gratitude is unnecessary, the AI replied, then vanished. Great start. Henry shuffled toward the indicated hallway, bumping into a hulking Chronosian whose 4 eyes narrowed with disgust. Watch yourself, human, the alien growled, voice like gravel. This isn't your playground. Sorry, just trying to... The Chronosian had already moved on, joining a cluster of similarly massive cadets who glanced back at Henry with unconcealed disdain. B7 was a hexagonal chamber where about 30 new cadets stood in loose formation. As Henry entered, the chatter died. Every pair or trio or cluster of eyes turned to stare. A human? Someone whispered in the universal translator frequency. Must be the janitor, another voice replied, triggering ripples of laughter. Henry squared his shoulders and found an open spot at the back. He'd expected this. Humans were considered the backwater race of the galaxy. No telepathy, no enhanced strength, no special abilities beyond stubborn determination. His father had faced the same prejudice as one of the first human cargo pilots licensed for interstellar routes. Dad would laugh his ass off seeing me here, Henry muttered. A flash of vibrant purple caught his eye. Standing at the front of the formation was the most stunning being he had ever seen. Her skin was a deep purple that seemed to shift and shimmer with her movements, catching the light like polished amethyst. Silver hair cascaded down her back, framing a face of perfect symmetry. When she turned, Henry glimpsed brilliant green eyes with vertical, gold-flecked pupils that seemed to glow from within. She was tall and athletic, her movements carrying an unconscious grace that made everyone else look clumsy by comparison. Her academy uniform, which looked utilitarian on the others, somehow hugged her curves like it had been custom-tailored. "Who is that?" Henry asked a nearby cadet, a blue-skinned humanoid with 4 arms. The cadet snorted. "That's Lena Vale, Velta royalty, top of her class on her homeworld, and completely out of your league, human." "I wasn't..." "Save it. Everyone stares. No one touches. That's the rule with Velta." The orientation began with a stern-faced commander, Admiral Zarvis, welcoming them to the most rigorous training program in the known universe. His exoskeletal face showed no emotion as he outlined the day's schedule. First assessment, Flight Simulator, Hangar E2nd, Combat Readiness, Arena 12. Third, Telepathic Aptitude, Psi Chamber 3. Each announcement triggered whispers of excitement among the cadets. Henry's stomach dropped. Telepathic aptitude? He could barely handle the other 2, but that one was physiologically impossible for humans. As they filed out toward the flight simulator, he found himself walking behind Lena Vale. She moved with effortless confidence, other cadets naturally creating space around her. When she sensed him behind her, she half-turned, those green-gold eyes flicking over him dismissively before she returned her attention forward. The simulator hangar contained 30 teardrop-shaped pods, each a replica of standard fighter cockpits. Henry had never piloted anything more complex than his father's old atmospheric flyer, but he'd logged hundreds of hours on commercial flight sims back home. "This can't be that different," he whispered, climbing into the pod. It was completely different. The neural interface activated, flooding his consciousness with data streams he couldn't begin to interpret. The simulated fighter responded to thought commands he didn't know how to formulate. He veered wildly, crashing into a virtual asteroid within seconds. "Cadet Westbrook," the instructor's voice boomed through the pod. "What exactly are you doing?" "I'm learning the controls," Henry offered weakly. Laughter erupted from the other pods. The neural link transmitted the collective amusement directly into his brain. "Try again. Basic flight pattern Delta 7. 3 more disastrous attempts followed. By the 4th crash, the instructor ordered him to exit the simulator. "We don't have time for remedial training, Westbrook. Observe until you can grasp the fundamentals." Red-faced, Henry stood aside, watching the others execute complex maneuvers with apparent ease. Lena Vale's performance was particularly dazzling, her fighter dancing through virtual obstacles like water flowing around stones. When the session ended, cadets emerged from their pods flushed with success. Lena stepped out last, her silver hair slightly tousled from the neural interface helmet. "Nice flying," Henry said as she passed, attempting to sound casual. Lena paused, those unnerving eyes fixing on him. Up close he noticed fine, barely visible patterns across her purple skin, like circuitry or ancient script. "You're here by mistake," she said, voice melodic yet cold. "You should leave while you still can." "Actually, I'm right where I want to be," Henry countered, summoning his father's defiance. "Just need to find my footing." "Humans don't have footing here. You lack the basic evolutionary adaptations this training requires." "Maybe, or maybe I'll surprise you." A slight smile curved her perfect lips. "That would be unexpected." She walked away, her movements fluid and hypnotic. "She actually talked to you," a voice said behind him. Henry turned to find a reptilian cadet watching him with something like respect. "I'm Kraz." "Henry, any tips for not embarrassing myself completely at the next assessment?" Kraz grimaced, revealing rows of needle-like teeth. "The combat arena. Good luck with that, human. It makes the flight sim look easy." He wasn't wrong. In Arena 12, cadets faced off against training drones and each other on elevated platforms suspended over shock-absorbing gel. The gravity controls shifted randomly, requiring constant adaptation. Henry lasted 12 seconds before a drone swept his legs and sent him plummeting off the platform. The gel broke his fall, but not his pride, especially when laughter echoed from above. "Shortest run in Academy history," someone called. Climbing back up, soaked in blue gel, Henry caught Lena watching him, her expression unreadable. When their eyes met, she quickly looked away. The telepathy assessment proved even worse. Inside Chamber 3, cadets sat in meditation posture while an instructor attempted to establish mental links. When he reached Henry, the aged Medusan instructor frowned. "Open your mind, cadet," he commanded. "I'm trying, sir." The instructor's tentacled head pulsed with light. "No, you're not even capable of basic reception. Humans lack the neural pathways. I could still learn the—" "Silence," the instructor snapped. "Your presence disrupts the other's concentration." Across the chamber, Lena Vale sat perfectly still, her aura visibly pulsing with power even to Henry's untrained eyes. Several other cadets appeared to be communicating with her telepathically, their expressions showing profound concentration. By day's end, Henry dragged himself to the assigned dormitory, body aching, spirit crushed. The room was small but private. Apparently none of the alien cadets wanted to bunk with a human. He collapsed onto the bed and pulled up his father's image on his personal device. James Westbrook's weathered face stared back, the same determined jawline, the same stubborn eyes. "I promised I'd make it off-world, Dad," Henry whispered. "Just not sure I can last here." His father had died believing humans would never be accepted among the stellar races. That's why Henry had to stay, despite the humiliation, to prove the old man wrong, to prove humanity belonged among the stars. The door chimed, indicating a visitor. Henry groggily pressed the entry pad. Lena Vale stood in the doorway, her purple skin luminous in the low light. She glanced down the hallway before speaking. "The flight simulator. Your last attempt. You adjusted the thruster sequence mid-maneuver." Her voice was quiet, almost accusatory. Henry sat up. "Yeah, I was just trying something different after failing spectacularly 3 times. That sequence variation isn't taught. It's not standard procedure." Her eyes narrowed. "Where did you learn it?" "I didn't. I just tried what felt right." Lena stepped closer, studying him intently. "Humans don't have instinctive spatial perception at those speeds. You shouldn't have known to make that adjustment." "Look, I grew up watching my father fly. Maybe I picked something up." She continued staring, clearly unsatisfied with his answer. "Tomorrow's advanced combat assessment will be public. All first-year cadets competing, ranked by performance." "Great. More humiliation." "The simulators used are ancient, pre-Federation technology. They sometimes glitch." She paused meaningfully. "Pod 17 has unique response parameters." Henry frowned. "Why are you telling me this?" "I'm not sure," she admitted, looking genuinely confused by her own actions. "Perhaps I'm curious what a human might do with a fair chance." She stepped back toward the door. "Or perhaps I enjoy watching spectacular failures." The door slid shut, leaving Henry alone with his thoughts and the lingering scent of something exotic, like cinnamon and ozone. "Pod 17, he repeated to himself, allowing a small smile. Maybe he had an ally after all, or maybe she was setting him up for an even greater fall. Either way, tomorrow would be interesting. The first light of the artificial dawn cycle found Henry already awake in his quarters, running through mental simulations. He'd spent half the night researching combat techniques on the Academy's database. Sleep could wait. Survival couldn't. His door chimed unexpectedly. Standing outside was Kraz, the reptilian cadet from yesterday. "Thought you might want breakfast before the slaughter," Kraz said, mandibles clicking in what Henry was beginning to recognize as amusement. "That obvious I'm doomed, huh? Let's just say the betting pool has you lasting less than 20 seconds today." Kraz's multifaceted eyes blinked. "I put credits on 30. Prove me right?" Henry grinned. "I'll try not to bankrupt you." The mess hall buzzed with pre-competition energy. Dozens of species clustered at tables, each group seemingly segregated by race. Henry followed Kraz to a table of mixed outsider species, those without enough numbers to form their own cliques. "Our token human," announced a floating jellyfish-like being as Henry sat down. "I'm Plex, quantum physics specialist." "And terrible at combat," added a stocky, fur-covered cadet with 6 eyes. "Like me, Sartok, biochem. Henry, specialization in disappointing expectations." The table erupted in translator-delayed laughter. For the first time since arriving, Henry felt something like belonging. "The advanced combat assessment isn't just physical," Plex explained, tendrils undulating. "It's strategic. Most focus on the combat, but the advanced part is the simulation's ability to adapt to your tactics." "It learns as you fight," added Sartok, spooning something gelatinous into one of his 3 mouths. "The longer you last, the harder it gets." "Great, so I'm extra screwed." "Pretty much," Kraz agreed cheerfully, "but it's a good way to die." Across the hall, Henry spotted Lena surrounded by other Velta and elite species cadets. Unlike yesterday, she seemed aware of his presence, occasionally glancing in his direction during her conversation. "What's the deal with the Velta?" Henry asked casually. The table went silent. "They're complicated," Plex finally answered. "Oldest spacefaring race in the sector. They consider themselves the pinnacle of evolution, telepathic abilities, enhanced strength, regenerative capabilities." "And they might be right," Sartok added. "Their home system has 3 habitable planets all under their control. Half the Academy's top brass are Velta." They don't usually notice lesser species, Kraz said, so whatever you did to catch Lena Vale's attention. He left the thought unfinished. I crashed spectacularly, repeatedly. No, she's watching you differently, Plex observed. Curious rather than contemptuous. Unusual. Henry caught Lena's eye again across the room. This time, she maintained the connection for several seconds before turning away. The Academy's combat arena for the assessment was massive, a domed chamber with a central platform suspended over the familiar blue gel. Unlike yesterday's training session, hundreds of spectators filled the surrounding stands. Senior cadets, instructors, and even some uniformed officers had come to watch the first year's performance. Quite a crowd, Henry muttered to Kraz as they lined up with the other cadets. Tradition. Everyone loves watching freshly recruited hotshots get humbled by the simulator. Admiral Xarvis himself presided over the assessment. His exoskeletal faceplates shifted into formal configuration as he addressed the assembly. This evaluation determines your combat aptitude baseline. Your performance today will be factored into all future assessments. His compound eyes scanned the nervous cadets. You will enter the simulator individually. Your objective: survive as long as possible against increasingly difficult combat scenarios. Henry scanned the row of simulator pods along the wall. 17. That's what Lena had said. Was it advice or sabotage? Begin with Cadet Zorex, Xarvis announced. A hulking cadet with metallic skin stepped forward, entered the first pod, and the simulation began. On the massive display screen above the arena, they watched Zorex battle virtual opponents with impressive skill. 3 minutes in, he was overwhelmed. One by one, cadets entered different pods. Some lasted barely a minute. A few managed 4 or 5. Kraz surprised everyone with an impressive 6-minute run. When Lena Vale's turn came, the room hushed. She moved with fluid grace, selecting pod 13. Inside, she became a blur of motion. Her combat style was mesmerizing, anticipating attacks before they came, moving with precision that bordered on precognition. 10 minutes passed before she finally succumbed to an overwhelming wave of opponents. The crowd erupted in applause. Admiral Xarvis actually nodded, the equivalent of ecstatic praise from the stoic commander. Next, Cadet Westbrook. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The human. This would be entertaining. Henry strode forward, ignoring the whispers. Pod 17 waited, its entry hatch slightly more weathered than the others. He hesitated for a split second, then committed. Inside, the neural interface connected with a jolt that felt different from yesterday's simulator, sharper, almost painful. The virtual arena materialized around him, and Henry found himself standing on the combat platform. The first opponent appeared, a standard training drone. Henry dodged its initial strike awkwardly but managed to counterattack. His movements felt sluggish compared to the other cadets, but he landed a solid blow. The drone disappeared. 2 more replaced it. Then 4. Henry was purely defensive now, retreating, barely avoiding elimination. His heart pounded, muscles already burning with exertion. 30 seconds, he heard someone announce from the crowd. He'd met Kraz's bet. Something strange happened then. As Henry narrowly avoided a simulated energy blast, his vision shifted. The arena seemed to slow and faint glowing lines appeared in the air, trajectory paths showing where the next attacks would come from. "What the hell?" he gasped, instinctively stepping aside as a drone struck exactly where the glowing line had indicated. The neural interface hummed against his temples. Something was definitely different about this pod. The sensation reminded him of when he'd sync with his father's old flight controls, that moment of perfect harmony between pilot and machine. Henry stopped overthinking and surrendered to the rhythm. Duck, roll, counter. The luminous trails guided his movements seconds before attacks came. 3 minutes passed. 4. The crowd had gone from mocking to confused to attentive. "He's seeing attack patterns," someone said. "Impossible for a human," another replied. 5 minutes in, Henry felt the simulator shift. The neural connection deepened. showing not just immediate attacks but multiple potential outcomes branching before him like a decision tree. He chose the optimal path each time, his body somehow keeping pace with what his mind perceived. 7 minutes. 8. His muscles screamed in protest, but the interface kept him moving. He wasn't just surviving now. He was fighting back strategically, eliminating drones in sequences that maximized efficiency. At 9 minutes, something in the simulator sparked. The neural connection fluctuated, sending a jolt of pain through Henry's skull. The glowing lines wavered, then intensified to near-blinding brightness. With a final surge, Henry executed a complex maneuver that shouldn't have been possible for his human reflexes. A spinning kick that eliminated 3 drones simultaneously before flipping backward to avoid a fourth. As his virtual feet touched the platform again, the simulation abruptly terminated. The pod door hissed open. Silence greeted him as he stepped out, disoriented and drenched in sweat. Admiral Xarvis stood before him, compound eyes narrowed. 9 minutes, 42 seconds. Explain your performance, cadet. Henry blinked, still reeling from the interface disconnection. I adapted, sir. Humans don't adapt to neural interfaces with that proficiency. The Admiral's voice was cold. Pod 17 was scheduled for maintenance. Its systems are unpredictable. I didn't know that, sir. Technically true. Lena hadn't specified why Pod 17 was different. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Henry caught sight of Lena watching him, her expression a complex mixture of surprise and something like satisfaction. Clear the arena, Xarvis ordered. Assessment complete. Results will be posted to your personal interfaces. As the crowd dispersed, Henry felt a hand on his shoulder. Kraz stood beside him, mandibles hanging open in shock. You just beat half the class, he hissed, including 3 Drakthar warriors. Lucky, I guess, Henry said, but his eyes sought out Lena. She stood across the chamber, surrounded by her elite peers who were gesturing animatedly at Henry. When she noticed him looking, she gave an almost imperceptible nod before turning away. What did you do in there? Kraz asked. I saw patterns, like the simulator was showing me what would happen before it did. That's not possible. Unless... Kraz's voice dropped lower. There are rumors about ancient tech embedded in some Academy systems, pre-Federation artifacts that interface differently with certain neural patterns. Henry remembered the glowing lines, the branching pathways of possibility. You think that's what happened? I don't know, but you just painted a target on your back. Nobody likes an unexpected competitor. Kraz glanced around nervously, especially not a human one. Later that evening, the assessment results appeared on Henry's terminal. His name sat in 9th position, out of 36 cadets, above Kraz, above several elite species representatives, 1 spot below Lena Vale. A message notification blinked on his screen. That wasn't luck. We need to talk. Meet me at Observation Deck C, midnight. L. Henry stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it. Whatever had happened in that simulator had changed things. He wasn't just fighting for his father's memory anymore. He was fighting for himself, for the realization that he might actually belong here after all. He typed a response. I'll be there. And thanks for the tip about Pod 17, though I'm guessing that wasn't just a standard glitch. H. As he pressed send, Henry smiled to himself. Let the Academy think what they wanted. Let them underestimate him. The human wasn't going anywhere. For the first time since arriving at the Galactic Eternity Academy, Henry Westbrook slept soundly, dreaming of glowing lines connecting stars across the void, pathways to futures he was finally beginning to see. Observation Deck C curved along the outer hull of the Academy, its transparent polycarbon dome offering an unobstructed view of the cosmos. Henry arrived at 11:55, heart hammering against his ribs. The vast chamber sat empty save for holographic star charts rotating lazily in the central projection well. He approached the viewing rail, placing his hands on the cool metal as he stared out at the brilliant F-class star dominating the vista. Its harsh white light illuminated the scatter of training vessels conducting night maneuvers, tiny specks against the infinite darkness. "You're punctual," another surprising human trait. Henry turned. Lena materialized from the shadows of an alcove, her purple skin luminescent in the starlight. She'd exchanged her cadet uniform for a close-fitting civilian outfit of some metallic fabric that shifted colors with her movement. Her silver hair hung loose around her shoulders. "Punctuality, just one of my many talents," Henry quipped, crossing his arms, "along with mysteriously excelling in rigged combat simulators." Lena approached, her steps silent. What happened in Pod 17 wasn't supposed to be possible. Yet here we are. She circled him slowly, those vertical pupils dilating as she studied him. "The simulator you use contains embedded technology, ancient tech, pre-Federation. So I've been told. Want to explain why you pointed me toward it?" "Curiosity." She stopped directly before him. "The artifacts respond differently to different neural patterns. Most species experience nothing unusual. Some, like the Velta, can access enhanced simulation parameters. But you—" her eyes narrowed. "You achieved full synchronization. The pod's systems recorded neural activity unlike anything seen before." Henry maintained eye contact despite the intensity of her gaze. Maybe humans aren't so primitive after all. Or maybe you're not entirely human. The statement hung between them. Henry laughed, but the sound died when he realized she was serious. "I'm as human as they come, born on Earth, regular parents, no special abilities. The artifacts were created by a civilization we call the Precursors. They vanished 50,000 years ago, but their technology remains scattered throughout the galaxy." Lena stepped closer. "The Academy was built around several recovered artifacts, integrated into our systems. And my brain somehow connects with them? More than connects. The neural interface data suggests you weren't just using the artifact. It was responding to you, recognizing you." Henry absorbed this, the implications setting off alarms. "Is that why you wanted to meet? Scientific curiosity about the primitive human?" Lena's perfect lips curved slightly. "Partially, but also to warn you. You've been reassigned to the elite training cadre, starting tomorrow." "That's good news, isn't it?" "It would be if it weren't highly unusual. Someone's taken a special interest in you, Henry Westbrook." Her use of his first name sent an unexpected charge through him. "And in this academy, attention isn't always beneficial. You think I'm in danger? I think you should be careful who you trust." Their eyes locked meaningfully. "Including you?" Henry challenged. "Especially me." A hint of sadness crossed her features. "My family has expectations, obligations that transcend personal preferences." Before Henry could respond, his wrist communicator chimed. The Academy insignia flashed, followed by text. "Assignment update. Cadet Westbrook Elite Squadron. Alpha First Session. 0500 hours, Hangar Bay. 7. "Looks like I'm moving up in the world," Henry muttered. "Your performance ranked 9th overall. Elite Squadron takes the top 12. So you're in it too?" Lena nodded. "As are the other Velta cadets, and 3 Drakthars who won't appreciate being outperformed by a human. I'll try not to bruise their egos further." Henry grinned, feeling reckless. "Unless they deserve it." "This isn't a game," Lena said sharply. "The artifacts are valuable beyond measure. If certain factions discover your connection to them—" "What factions?" Lena glanced toward the entrance, then lowered her voice. "There are groups within the Federation who seek precursor technology, who believe it holds the key to galactic dominance. And does it? That's what they want to find out. She stepped back. I should go. We shouldn't be seen together. Wait. Henry caught her wrist. The contact sent a jolt through his fingers like static electricity but warmer. Why help me? Why the warning about Pod 17? Why any of this? Lena looked down at his hand but didn't pull away. I don't know, she admitted. You're an anomaly, and anomalies interest me. Just scientific curiosity. Her eyes met his, something unreadable flickering in their depths. For now, she pulled away gently and strode toward the exit, pausing at the threshold. The elite sessions are intense. Don't expect special treatment. Wouldn't dream of it, Henry called after her. Only when the door hissed shut behind her did he exhale, unclenching fists he hadn't realized he'd made. What the hell had he stumbled into? Elite Squadron Alpha trained in a restricted section of the Academy. Hangar Bay 7 housed advanced prototypes and custom vessels unavailable to regular cadets. Henry arrived at 0458, still adjusting to the Academy's 26-hour cycle. Commander Thrix, a battle-scarred Medusan with cybernetic enhancements replacing 2 of his tentacles, greeted the assembled cadets with undisguised skepticism. Elite status means nothing here, he growled, his translator struggling with his native clicks and whistles. In this bay, you start from nothing and prove your worth daily. His compound eyes lingered on Henry. Some of you have demonstrated unexpected aptitudes. Such anomalies will be thoroughly explored. The morning's training involved paired exercises in long-range scout vessels, sleek, 2-person craft designed for reconnaissance in hostile territory. The pairs were assigned randomly by the Academy's AI. Cadet Vale and Cadet Westbrook, Scout Vessel, Epsilon 9. Henry caught Lena's eye across the hangar. Her expression remained neutral, but a muscle tightened in her jaw. Lucky me, he murmured as they approached the ship. Focus on the mission parameters, she replied coolly. Our objective is simple navigation through the asteroid field in Sector 7. No combat, no complications. Sounds boring. Boring is preferable to dead. She climbed into the pilot's seat without discussion. The scout vessel launched smoothly from the bay, accelerating to cruising velocity as it cleared the Academy's defensive perimeter. Henry adjusted to the co-pilot controls, noting significant differences from the simulators. These systems are more responsive, he observed. Prototype neural interfaces, Lena confirmed, based on recovered technology. Like the artifacts in Pod 17, Henry thought. He allowed his consciousness to extend into the ship's systems, surprised at how naturally the connection formed. Information flowed bidirectionally, not just commands from him to the ship, but data from the vessel's sensors directly into his perception. We're approaching the asteroid field, Lena announced. Standard procedure is to take the suboptimal route around the periphery, Henry finished. But we could save 19 minutes by cutting through that gap between the larger bodies. Lena's eyes narrowed. That trajectory would require precision beyond most navigators' capabilities. Try me. Their gazes locked. Challenge accepted, something in her eyes seemed to say as she adjusted course. The asteroid field loomed ahead, a dense cluster of spinning, jagged rocks ranging from car size to small moon proportions. Lena guided the craft expertly, weaving between the outer bodies with practiced ease. As they penetrated deeper, the density increased. Lena's movements grew more precise, her purple fingers dancing across the controls. Henry found himself admiring the fluid grace of her piloting. Not bad for a Velta, he said. Patronizing compliments? How very human. But a hint of amusement colored her voice. Henry's awareness suddenly expanded as he connected more deeply with the ship's sensors. Glowing lines, similar to what he'd seen in the combat simulator, began to appear in his vision, showing optimal pathways through the field. There's a gravitational anomaly ahead, he said. Uncharted. 3 degrees port. Lena gave him a sharp look. The sensors don't show. A massive asteroid suddenly shifted course, pulled by the invisible force Henry had sensed. Lena jerked the controls, narrowly avoiding collision. How did you know? She demanded. I can see it. The patterns, the trajectories. He couldn't explain better than that. Lena hesitated, then made a decision. Take the controls. What? If you can see what I can't, you should fly. She lifted her hands from the interface. Show me. Heart racing, Henry transferred control to his station. The neural connection deepened instantly, the ship becoming an extension of his consciousness. The glowing lines multiplied, showing not just obstacles but opportunities, slingshot trajectories around gravitational wells, efficient paths between tumbling rocks. He piloted with increasing confidence, the small vessel dancing through gaps that seemed impossibly narrow, anticipating movements seconds before they occurred. Beside him, Lena watched with undisguised fascination. This is how you fought in the simulator, she whispered. You're not just controlling the ship, you're seeing possibilities. Henry didn't respond, lost in the flow of information. They were making record time through the field, approaching the exit point far ahead of schedule. A proximity alarm shattered his concentration. An uncharted fragment, barely visible on conventional sensors, hurtled toward them from a blind spot. Henry reacted instinctively, throwing the ship into a barrel roll that would clear the path, but the maneuver placed them directly in the path of a second, larger asteroid he hadn't accounted for. "Henry!" Lena cried out. Impact was unavoidable. The asteroid slammed into their port side, shearing off one stabilizer and sending them into an uncontrolled spin. Warning lights flooded the cockpit. A secondary collision struck the life support system, venting precious oxygen. "Emergency protocols!" Lena shouted over the blaring alarms. "Navigation's gone. Engines at 40%. We're leaking atmosphere." Henry fought for control, but the damaged vessel resisted his commands. "Can you seal the breach?" "Trying." Lena unbuckled, moving toward the rear compartment. The ship lurched violently, throwing her against the bulkhead. She cried out as her head struck metal, a dark purple line of blood appearing across her forehead. "Lena!" Henry engaged emergency stabilizers, bringing the worst of the tumbling under control. They were still drifting dangerously, but at least they weren't spinning. He reached Lena's side as she struggled to rise, her movements uncoordinated. Possible concussion, he thought, recalling basic emergency training. "The life support controls," she managed, pointing toward a damaged panel sparking with electrical discharges. "Have to reroute." Henry helped her to the panel, supporting her weight as she worked. The ship's atmosphere was thinning rapidly. He could feel the pressure change in his ears, the increasing effort required to draw breath. "Can you fix it?" "Not completely," she gasped. "But I can. Buy us time." Her fingers moved across the controls with practiced precision despite her injury. The rate of oxygen loss slowed but didn't stop completely. How much time? 20 minutes, maybe 30. She slumped against him, clearly struggling to maintain consciousness. Distress beacon. Activating. "Help me get you back to your seat," Henry said, wrapping his arm around her waist. The movement brought their bodies close together in the narrow confine of the damaged vessel. Even injured, even in crisis, Henry couldn't help noticing the warmth of her against him, the subtle scent of her skin, something like cinnamon and ozone. They reached the cockpit, and Henry helped her into the pilot's chair. Blood trickled from her hairline down her perfect features. Her breathing seemed labored. "The oxygen masks," he said, reaching for the emergency compartment. "We need to conserve air." "Won't help," Lena murmured, her eyes unfocused. "Systems compromised. We need full repair." Henry assessed their situation grimly. Engines damaged, navigation impaired, oxygen depleting, and they were still drifting deeper into the asteroid field, where further collisions were inevitable. He connected with the ship's remaining systems, searching for options. The glowing lines appeared again, but fainter now, as if the damage had affected his connection to the vessel's sensors. "There's an emergency shelter embedded in asteroid K-42, Lena whispered, fighting to stay conscious. "Old mining outpost. If we can, reach it." "How far?" 3 minutes at full thrust, but we can't navigate precisely enough." "We might," Henry said, an idea forming. if I can reconnect with the ship's systems completely. How? He placed his hands on the neural interface, the same way I did in the combat simulator, full synchronization. That could kill you, Lena warned, reaching for his arm with surprising strength. The damaged systems. Feedback could overload your neural pathways. Better than both of us suffocating. Henry met her gaze steadily. Unless you have a better idea? Their eyes locked, something unspoken passing between them. Finally, Lena nodded. Do it, she said softly. But Henry, be careful. Henry stripped off the standard interface gloves, placing his bare palms against the console's neural receptors. A forbidden technique, direct skin contact with the ship's neural matrix could allow deeper connection but risked permanent neural damage. Ship's diagnostic systems still show the shelter's location, Lena said, voice weakening, coordinates transferring to navigation. Henry closed his eyes, allowing his consciousness to merge with the vessel's damaged systems. The connection flared, painful, disjointed like touching an exposed wire. Fragmented data flooded his mind. Warning signals, system failures, radiation leaks. Focus, he whispered to himself. Find the pattern. The familiar glowing lines began to reappear in his mind's eye, but distorted. Broken pathways, incomplete trajectories. The ship's awareness was as damaged as its physical components. Henry pushed deeper, ignoring the searing pain behind his eyes. I can see it, he gasped. The shelter, 2 kilometers off starboard, but we can't navigate directly. Too many obstacles. Lena's breathing had grown shallow, her purple skin paling to lavender. Trust what you see. Henry engaged the remaining thrusters, guiding the crippled vessel through a series of precise maneuvers. Each adjustment sent daggers of feedback pain through his neural connection, but he persisted. The ship responded sluggishly, fighting him at every turn. A massive asteroid loomed in their path. We can't clear it, Lena warned, struggling to focus. We're not going over it, Henry replied, sweat beading on his forehead. We're going through it. He directed the vessel toward a jagged crevice in the asteroid's surface, a natural tunnel barely wider than their ship. The neural connection showed him its twisting path, a dangerous but navigable route to the other side. That's insane, Lena whispered. Probably. Henry managed a tight smile. Hold on. The ship plunged into darkness as they entered the crevice. Proximity alarms screamed as rock faces scraped past mere centimeters from their hull. Henry navigated blind, relying entirely on the neural connection and the glowing pathways only he could perceive. The tunnel twisted, narrowed, then suddenly opened to reveal the emergency shelter embedded in the larger asteroid beyond, a battered metal dome with ancient Federation markings. Landing protocols, Henry muttered through gritted teeth. Their damaged vessel lurched toward the shelter's small docking bay. With the last reserves of power, Henry fired maneuvering thrusters to align their approach. The ship clipped the entrance, metal shrieking against metal as they skidded into the pressurized bay. Emergency clamps engaged automatically, securing the vessel. The ancient shelter's systems recognized the distress beacon, initiating pressurization and life support. We made it, Henry exhaled, severing the neural connection. The sudden disconnection left him dizzy, ears ringing. Lena, She had slumped forward in her seat, unconscious. The head wound looked worse, dark purple blood matting her silver hair. Henry unfastened her restraints and lifted her from the chair. The ship's hatch opened with a hiss, revealing the shelter's austere interior, a small command center with basic life support equipment. The air smelled stale but breathable. He carried her to a dusty medical berth in the corner, gently laying her down. Her breathing had stabilized somewhat in the pressurized environment, but she remained unconscious. A quick search located an emergency medical kit with supplies compatible with most humanoid species. Henry cleaned her wound, applying healing gel that immediately began knitting the damaged tissue. Her skin felt fever-hot beneath his fingertips. "Don't die on me," he murmured. "Not when I'm finally starting to like you." The shelter's ancient computer terminal flickered to life when activated, its systems primitive but functional. Henry sent an emergency signal to the Academy, including their coordinates and condition. The message would take approximately 40 minutes to reach the Academy through the asteroid field's interference. With nothing left to do but wait, Henry returned to Lena's side. Her eyelids fluttered, consciousness returning slowly. "Henry?" Her voice was barely audible. "Right here." He took her hand without thinking. "We made it. Help's on the way." She tried to sit up but winced, falling back. "How?" The navigation was, "Let's just say I have a talent for finding paths where none exist." Her fingers tightened around his. "You synced directly with the damaged systems. That should have killed you." "Apparently, I'm hard to kill." Henry smiled, but it faded as he noticed her serious expression. "What you did, what you can do, it's unprecedented." Lena's vertical pupils dilated, focusing intently on his face. "The artifacts respond to you in ways they shouldn't, in ways reserved for what?" She hesitated. "For their creators." The implication hung heavy between them. "I'm human, Lena. Just human." "Perhaps." She reached up, tracing the contour of his jaw with cool fingers. "Or perhaps there's more to humans, to you, than anyone suspected." The touch sent electricity down his spine. In the dim light of the shelter, her purple skin seemed to glow from within. The intimacy of the moment, their isolation, the shared danger, her vulnerability, created a tension unlike anything Henry had experienced. "Why did you help me?" he asked softly. "With Pod 17, with the warning, any of it?" Lena's eyes met his, something unreadable in their depths. "Because you're different. Because you see paths others don't." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Because when you look at me, you don't see just a Velta." "What do I see?" "Me." The single word carried weight beyond its simplicity. Henry leaned closer, drawn by something beyond conscious thought. Their breaths mingled in the cool air of the shelter. "You're still just a human," she whispered, but her voice trembled. "Not convinced?" Henry murmured, carefully sliding his hand behind her neck, supporting her head. Their lips met, tentative at first, then with growing intensity. Her mouth was cool against his, but warming rapidly. The kiss deepened, her hand clutching his uniform, pulling him closer. When they finally separated, both breathless, Lena's eyes had darkened to emerald green, the golden pupils expanded. A deeper purple flush colored her cheeks. "That was," she began. "Unprecedented?" Henry suggested, a smile playing at the corner of his mouth. A soft laugh escaped her, the first genuine laugh he'd heard from her. "Indeed." The shelter's communications array chimed, breaking the moment, a response from the Academy. "Rescue vessels dispatched, ETA 28 minutes." "They're coming for us," Henry said, reluctantly moving back. Lena sat up cautiously, wincing slightly. "Henry, listen to me. When we return, things will be complicated. There are factions within the Academy, within the Federation, that would exploit your connection to the artifacts." "What factions?" She looked away. "The Custodians of Legacy, an organization dedicated to locating and controlling precursor technology. They believe the artifacts hold the key to evolutionary advancement." "And you know this how?" Her silence answered before her words did. "My family, the Vale clan, are prominent members." The revelation struck Henry like a physical blow. "So all this, your interest in me, was that just to study my connection to the artifacts?" "It started that way," she admitted, meeting his eyes directly. "When Pod 17 responded to you, I was instructed to observe, to get close enough to understand your abilities." "Instructed by whom?" "My father. He leads the Custodian's research division." Henry stood, putting distance between them. "So this was an assignment?" "Yes." Lena rose from the berth, steadier now. "But it's become complicated." "Complicated," Henry repeated flatly. "Because the lab specimen developed feelings?" "Because I did." Her voice hardened. "This isn't easy for me, Henry. The Vale clan has served the Custodians for generations. Our loyalty is absolute. Until now." She approached him slowly, stopping just beyond reach. "Until you. until I saw something in you that challenged everything I thought I knew." Henry wanted to believe her. The kiss still lingered on his lips, the connection they'd shared felt genuine, but betrayal coursed through him, hot and bitter. "How do I know this isn't just another tactic? Get the human to trust you, then deliver him to Daddy's lab?" Pain flashed across her features. "You don't. You can't." She stepped closer, close enough that he could see the faint patterns beneath her skin, like circuitry or ancient script. "But I'm risking everything telling you this. My family, my future, my place in Velta society. Why risk it? Because the custodians will stop at nothing to understand your connection to the artifacts. Because once they confirm what I suspect, that human DNA contains precursor markers, they'll dissect you to find out why." Her eyes held his, unflinching. "Because despite everything, I don't want to see you destroyed." The shelter's proximity sensors chimed. A vessel approaching, too soon for the Academy rescue. Lena froze, checking the scanner. "That's not an Academy ship. That's a custodian stealth craft." Fear colored her voice. "They monitored our emergency signal. They're coming for you." "For us," Henry corrected. Decision made in that instant. "Where's the shelter's weapon locker?" "Henry, you don't understand. The custodians have resources beyond—" "Where?" he demanded. Lena pointed to a sealed panel. "Access code is 5591 beta, but standard weapons won't stop them. Then we'll need something non-standard." Henry ripped open the panel, retrieving two ancient but functional pulse rifles. "I'm not going quietly to any lab, and I'm not leaving you behind. They're my people, Henry, my family. Your people were ready to sacrifice you along with me." He checked the rifle's charge. "The question is, are you ready to stand against them?" The approaching vessel's docking sequence initiated, metal groaning as it connected with the shelter's secondary airlock. They had moments, nothing more. Lena looked from Henry to the airlock and back, conflict evident in her expression. Then, with fluid grace, she stepped forward and took the second rifle from his hands. "I stand with you," she said simply. "But Henry, if we survive this, everything changes, for both of us. Everything already has." He positioned himself beside the entrance, rifle raised. "Ready?" Lena took up position on the opposite side, her movements suggesting years of combat training. The fear had vanished from her expression, replaced by determined focus. "Ready," she confirmed, her emerald eyes meeting his. In that moment, despite everything, Henry knew with absolute certainty that whatever came through that airlock, they would face it together. The inner door began to cycle open. The airlock door slid open with a pneumatic hiss. Henry's finger tensed on the trigger, pulse rifle humming with energy. 3 armored figures emerged, sleek combat suits with reflective helmets that concealed their faces. Not custodians, but Academy security. "Stand down, cadets!" The lead officer raised his visor, revealing Commander Thrix's scarred Medusan features. "What in 7 hells happened here?" Henry lowered his weapon cautiously. Beside him, Lena did the same, though tension radiated from her slim frame. "Asteroid collision damaged our vessel," Henry explained, omitting their expectation of custodian forces. "We barely made it to this emergency shelter." Thrix's compound eyes narrowed, scanning the room. "We detected another ship approaching your position. It disengaged when we arrived." Lena and Henry exchanged glances. "Probably scavengers," Lena offered smoothly. "This sector attracts them." Thrix didn't look convinced but nodded curtly. "Medical team, assess Cadet Vale's injuries. The rest of you, secure their damaged vessel for retrieval." As medics attended to Lena, Thrix pulled Henry aside. "Your navigation through that asteroid field was unorthodox, Westbrook. The flight recorder data shows maneuvers that should have been impossible. I got lucky, sir." "No one gets that lucky." The commander's cybernetic tentacle twitched. "The Academy has special interest in cadets with unique aptitudes, especially now." "Now, sir? You'll be briefed upon return. The final qualification exam has been accelerated." Thrix lowered his voice. "Forces are moving that concern us all." The return journey to the academy passed in uneasy silence. Lena, cleared by medical, sat beside Henry in the rescue vessel's passenger compartment. They couldn't speak freely surrounded by academy personnel, but her hand found his briefly when the others weren't looking. "We need to talk," she whispered as they disembarked at the academy docking bay. "Observatory. Midnight." Henry nodded imperceptibly, then watched as she was escorted to advanced medical for further evaluation. The brief separation felt longer than it should have. The academy hummed with unusual activity. Additional security patrols roamed the corridors, and equipment was being moved to defensive positions. Repair crews reinforced shield generators. Something big was happening. Henry's roommate terminal displayed an urgent notification. Accelerated final assessment. All elite squadron cadets. Tomorrow, 0600 hours. Full combat readiness required. Attendance mandatory. Kraz found him in the mess hall, mandibles clicking nervously. "You've seen the alert? They've never accelerated finals before." "Any idea what's happening?" Henry asked, picking at food he had no appetite for. "Rumors." Kraz leaned closer. "Pirate fleet movements near Federation space. Unusual activity in the outer systems. Some say it's just a drill, but..." He glanced at the increased security presence. "This doesn't feel like a drill." Henry scrutinized the room. Several professors huddled in deep conversation. Armed officers patrolled the perimeter. And in the far corner, Admiral Zarvis himself conferred with senior staff, his exoskeletal face arranged in what Henry recognized as a crisis configuration. "Something's coming," Henry murmured. Midnight found him waiting at the observatory again, anxiety churning in his gut. The vast chamber appeared empty, the star charts rotating in eerie silence. "We don't have much time." Lena's voice came from behind a support column. She emerged, her purple skin paler than usual, silver hair pulled back severely. "The custodians are making their move." "What move? What's happening?" "The pirate fleet approaching the academy isn't pirates." Her voice dropped lower. "It's a custodian black ops squadron, using modified vessels to mask their signature. They're coming for the artifacts, and for you." "How do you know this?" "Because I was supposed to be part of it." Shame flickered across her perfect features. "My father contacted me after our rescue. The custodians monitored our emergency communication and tracked our neural connection patterns. They now believe you're the key to unlocking the artifact's full potential." Henry absorbed this, ice forming in his veins. "And the academy?" "Suspects nothing. They believe it's a standard pirate incursion, concerning but manageable." Lena stepped closer. "The final assessment tomorrow is a cover. The academy is positioning its defenses, using cadets to supplement regular forces. When the attack comes, the custodians will target the central archives where the largest artifacts are stored. We have to warn them." "With what proof? My word against my father's, a respected researcher versus a cadet with divided loyalties?" She shook her head. "The custodians have operatives within academy leadership. The moment we raise the alarm, we expose ourselves." "So what do we do?" Lena's emerald eyes locked with his. "There's an experimental vessel in Hangar 9, prototype stealth technology coupled with a neural interface based on precursor designs. If we can access it before the attack begins..." "We could fly straight into a trap," Henry countered, "or be shot as deserters." "Those are risks we'll have to take." Her hand found his, cool fingers interlacing with warm. "I've betrayed my family for you, Henry, everything I've ever known. But I believe there's a reason the artifacts respond to you, a purpose the custodians would corrupt." The sincerity in her voice left no room for doubt. This wasn't manipulation or deception. This was Lena, stripped of pretense. "When do we move?" Henry asked. "Now. The attack will begin at dawn, coordinated with the start of the assessment when defenses are partially powered down for cadet exercises." They moved through the academy's darkened corridors, avoiding patrols with practiced ease. Lena's knowledge of security protocols proved invaluable, allowing them to bypass locked sections and surveillance systems. Hangar 9 was ostensibly off-limits, a research area that housed the Academy's most advanced prototypes. The entrance required top-level clearance. "How do we get in?" Henry whispered as they approached the sealed door. Lena produced a small device from her uniform pocket. "My father's access chip. All custodian leaders carry them. They override Federation security." "You stole from your father?" "I removed it from his quarters during his last visit." A hint of defiance colored her voice. "Consider it my resignation letter." The door slid open, revealing a cavernous space containing a single vessel unlike any Henry had seen before. Sleek, almost organic in design, its hull composed of a material that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. No visible thrusters or conventional propulsion systems, just a seamless, aerodynamic shape that suggested immense speed. "The Whisper," Lena breathed. "Designed using recovered precursor technology. Only 3 people have successfully piloted it." "Let me guess. All Velta?" "2 Velta, 1 Medusan." She approached the vessel, which seemed to respond to her presence, a subtle shimmer rippling across its surface. "The neural interface is intense, more direct than anything you've experienced." Henry examined the ship with growing fascination. The familiar sensation returned, that pull, that recognition, as if the vessel were somehow aware of him. "How do we board it?" In response, a section of the hull simply opened, reconfiguring itself to form an entrance. "It responds to intent," Lena explained, visible awe in her expression. "The metal is programmable matter infused with precursor technology." They entered a cockpit unlike any conventional design. No physical controls, just 2 reclined seats surrounded by a semicircular console that glowed with soft blue light. The interior felt alive, humming with energy that resonated in Henry's bones. "The neural link requires direct integration," Lena said, indicating recessed sections in the headrests. "It will scan and map your neural architecture, then establish a connection more profound than standard interfaces." "Will it hurt?" Henry asked, settling into the pilot's seat. "The first time?" "Immensely." An alarm suddenly blared throughout the hangar. Red emergency lights bathed the chamber in crimson. "They've detected the breach," Lena said, urgency sharpening her voice. "We need to launch now." Henry leaned back, allowing his head to rest in the neural cradle. The moment contact was made, pain exploded behind his eyes, white-hot needles driving into his skull. Every nerve ending fired simultaneously, his spine arching involuntarily as the ship mapped his consciousness. Through the haze of agony he heard Lena's voice. "Breathe through it. Don't fight the connection." The pain crested, then abruptly transformed into something else entirely, a vast expansion of awareness. Henry's consciousness extended beyond his body, merging with the vessel itself. He could feel every molecule of its structure, sense the energy flowing through its systems. More than that, he could see, not with eyes but with some deeper perception, glowing pathways extending in all directions. Possible trajectories, potential futures, probabilities branching like luminous rivers. "Henry, they're coming." Lena's voice seemed distant, though she sat right beside him. "We need to launch." He didn't move physically, didn't touch any controls. Intent was enough. The Whisper responded instantly, rising from its berth with impossible grace. The hangar doors remained sealed before them, but Henry perceived a weakness in their structure, a resonant frequency that would disrupt the molecular bonds. The ship emitted a focused sonic pulse. The massive doors shuddered, then disintegrated into metallic dust. They shot through the opening into open space, acceleration pressing them into their seats. Behind them, Academy defense systems came online, but too late. The Whisper's stealth systems engaged automatically, rendering them invisible to conventional sensors. "This is incredible," Henry breathed, experiencing flight as he never had before. The ship wasn't a tool he controlled. It was an extension of his being, responding to his thoughts faster than nerve impulses could travel. "Where are we going?" Lena asked, her own neural connection more limited but still sufficient to share tactical data. Before Henry could respond, the sensor array lit up with incoming vessels, dozens of them, approaching from the system's outer boundary. The alleged pirate fleet had arrived ahead of schedule. "They've accelerated their timeline," Lena said grimly. "They must have detected our theft of the Whisper." The fleet's configuration was military precision disguised as chaotic approach, a tactic designed to confuse Academy defenses. Henry could see their true formation with perfect clarity, predicting their attack vectors before they executed them. "They're targeting the Academy's shield generators first," he observed. "Standard triangle formation with—" He paused, noticing something odd. "Wait, those aren't all custodian vessels." "What do you mean?" "These three lead ships, their energy signatures are different, genuine pirate vessels." Henry's expanded consciousness processed the implications. The custodians allied with actual pirates to make their cover more convincing. The Academy's warning systems blared to life, finally detecting the approaching threat. Defense platforms powered up, but too slowly. The first wave of attackers had already breached the outer perimeter. "We need to warn them," Henry decided, banking the Whisper toward the Academy's command center. "The custodians are using the pirates as cannon fodder while they target the artifact repository." He established communication with Academy Control, overriding security protocols through the Whisper's advanced systems. "Academy Command, this is Cadet Westbrook. The attacking force includes disguised custodian vessels targeting your central archives. They're after the artifacts. Conventional defenses won't stop them." Admiral Zarvis's voice crackled through the comm. "Westbrook? You're in a stolen prototype during an attack? Explain yourself immediately." "No time, sir. Check the energy signatures of the vessels approaching from Vector 227 Mark 9. They're not pirates. They're using modified Federation technology." A pause, then. "Confirmation received. But how did you—" "I'll explain later. Right now, you need to reinforce the archive defenses. And, sir, watch for internal sabotage. The custodians have agents within the Academy." The transmission cut as a massive explosion rocked the Academy's south quadrant, a direct hit on the main shield generator. Alarms wailed across all frequencies as the protective barrier flickered and failed. "They're inside the perimeter," Lena said, monitoring tactical displays. "Custodian strike team heading for the central archives." Henry made an instant decision. "We're going after them." The Whisper responded to his intent, diving toward the Academy's central spire where the most valuable artifacts were stored. Through the neural link, Henry could sense the custodian forces converging on the repository. 12 operatives led by a commanding officer whose neural signature felt disturbingly familiar to Lena. "My father," she whispered, recognizing it through their shared connection. "He's leading the strike team personally." Henry guided the Whisper to a maintenance dock near the repository entrance. As they disembarked, emergency lighting bathed the corridor in pulsing red. Distant explosions punctuated the chaos as the battle raged throughout the station. "We need weapons," Henry said. Lena accessed a security locker, retrieving 2 pulse rifles. "The repository has additional defenses beyond the main security system. They'll be expecting resistance." They moved through the corridors with practiced precision, Lena taking point while Henry covered their rear. The neural connection with the Whisper had faded, but something remained, a heightened awareness, as if his consciousness had been permanently expanded by the experience. As they approached the repository entrance, the sound of weapons fire echoed from within. The massive vault door hung open, its security measures disabled. Inside, Academy security forces exchanged fire with armored custodian operatives across a chamber filled with artifacts and containment fields. At the chamber's center stood a man in elaborate Velta regalia, his purple skin darker than Lena's, silver hair streaked with black. Professor Vale, head of the Custodian Research Division, and Lena's father. He directed the attack with cold efficiency, personally overseeing the extraction of a glowing crystalline structure from its containment field. "The prime artifact," Lena breathed. "The centerpiece of the precursor collection." Henry felt it immediately, a resonance, a pull unlike anything he'd experienced with the other artifacts. The crystalline structure seemed to pulse in response to his presence, its glow intensifying. Professor Vale noticed the change, his head snapping up to locate the source. His eyes widened upon seeing Lena, then narrowed with recognition when they fell on Henry. "The human," he said, voice carrying despite the chaos. "Bring him to me. Kill anyone who interferes." 4 custodian operatives immediately broke off from the main force, advancing toward their position. "Cover me," Henry said to Lena, an impossible plan forming in his mind. "What are you doing?" "Testing a theory." He handed her his rifle. "Keep them busy for 30 seconds. Before she could protest, Henry slipped away, circling through the shadowed perimeter of the chamber. Lena provided covering fire, drawing the operatives' attention with precise shots that forced them into defensive positions. Henry approached the prime artifact from behind, using the battle as cover. Professor Vale remained focused on directing the extraction, unaware of Henry's approach until he stood mere meters away. The artifact's glow intensified further, bathing the area in brilliant blue light. Professor Vale turned, surprise registering on his aristocratic features. "Fascinating," he said, studying Henry with clinical detachment. "You really do resonate with it. The connection is even stronger than our reading suggested." "Step away from the artifact," Henry commanded. Vale smiled coldly. "Or what, human? You'll shoot me with the weapon you don't have." He gestured to his armed guards. "You're valuable, but not irreplaceable. We can extract what we need from your corpse." "You're wrong," Henry replied, stepping closer. "About why the artifacts respond to me. About what they are." "Enlighten me then, before I have you sedated." Henry reached out toward the prime artifact. "They're not weapons or tools. They're connectors, designed to bridge consciousness across species, across time. Poetic, but irrelevant. The artifacts will serve the custodian's purpose, as will you." "No." Henry's fingers brushed the crystalline surface. "They'll serve their own purpose." The moment contact was made, energy surged through Henry's body. His consciousness expanded explosively, connecting not just with the prime artifact, but with every precursor device in the repository simultaneously. The glowing pathways appeared again, more vivid than ever, showing him exactly what needed to be done. The artifacts throughout the chamber activated in sequence, creating a cascading resonance that spread outward. Systems throughout the academy responded, lights flickering, computers reconfiguring, defense platforms realigning. Through it all, Henry stood transfixed, his body the conduit for energies he barely comprehended. In his expanded awareness, he could sense the pirate fleet, the custodian vessels, the academy defenses, all connected in a vast pattern that suddenly made perfect sense. "Stop him!" Professor Vale's voice seemed distant, unimportant. Custodian operatives converged on Henry's position, but found themselves unable to approach. An energy field had formed around him and the prime artifact, repelling all attempts to interfere. The Academy's defense grid came fully online, but reconfigured, targeting with impossible precision, disabling the attacking vessels without destroying them. Pirates and custodians alike found their ships immobilized, weapons systems offline. Throughout the Academy, hidden custodian agents were suddenly revealed, their neural patterns identified and tracked by systems that shouldn't have had that capability. In the midst of the chaos, Lena fought her way to Henry's side, dispatching 2 operatives with efficient precision. She reached the edge of the energy field surrounding him, unable to pass through but close enough to see his expression, serene despite the power coursing through him. "Henry," she called out, "you need to disengage. The neural load is too much for a human mind to bear." He heard her, but couldn't respond. His consciousness was stretched across too many systems, maintaining too many connections. Pain began to build at the edges of his awareness. Neural pathways overloading, synapses firing beyond safe parameters. Through the haze, he saw Professor Vale raise a specialized weapon, a neural disruptor designed to sever connections. It wouldn't kill Henry, but it would break his link to the artifacts, potentially causing permanent brain damage. "Father, don't!" Lena's voice cut through the chaos. She stood between them, her own weapon trained on her father. "It's over. The Academy knows everything." "You would choose this human over your own kind?" Vale's face contorted with rage and disbelief. "Over your family, your destiny. I choose what the artifacts have shown us. Connection, not control. Understanding, not dominance." Lena's voice remained steady despite the emotion behind her words. "Lower your weapon." For a moment it seemed Professor Vale might comply. Then his expression hardened and he shifted aim, not at Henry but at Lena. "No daughter of mine would betray her heritage for a primitive species," he snarled. "You're no longer Velta." He fired. The neural disruptor's energy beam lanced toward Lena. Henry, still connected to the artifacts, perceived the attack's trajectory before it happened. Through sheer force of will, he extended the energy field around himself to encompass Lena, deflecting the beam back at its source. Professor Vale crumpled to the ground, victim of his own weapon. His neural pathways disrupted, he lay unconscious but alive. The strain proved too much. Henry's connection began to collapse, his consciousness snapping back into his physical form with brutal force. He fell to his knees as the energy field dissipated, the glowing pathways fading from his vision. Lena reached him first, catching him before he hit the floor. "Henry, can you hear me?" He managed a weak nod, his entire body trembling with aftershocks. "Did it work?" "Yes." She cradled his head in her lap, silver hair falling around them like a curtain. "The attack has been neutralized. The custodians are being detained. You saved the Academy." Academy security forces secured the remaining custodian operatives. Admiral Xarvis entered the chamber, surveying the scene with uncharacteristic amazement evident in his compound eyes. "What happened here?" he demanded. Lena looked up from Henry's prone form. "The artifacts happened, Admiral. They showed us what they were truly meant for." Henry's vision blurred, consciousness fading as the neural strain took its toll. The last thing he saw was Lena's face above him, concern etched in her perfect features, those emerald eyes holding his until darkness claimed him. Henry awoke in the Academy's medical bay, the sterile white ceiling swimming into focus above him. His head throbbed with dull pain, like the aftermath of the worst hangover imaginable. When he tried to move, his limbs felt leaden, disconnected. "Don't try to get up," a familiar voice cautioned. "Your neural pathways are still recalibrating." Lena sat beside his bed, her purple skin luminous under the medical bay's soft lighting. Dark circles under her emerald eyes suggested she hadn't left his side in some time. "How long?" Henry managed, his voice a rasp. 3 days. She offered him water, cool fingers supporting his head. "The medical team wasn't sure you'd recover. Human brains aren't designed to channel that kind of energy." Memories flooded back in disjointed fragments, the repository, the artifacts awakening, consciousness expanding beyond his body, the custodian's defeat. "Your father?" Lena's expression tightened momentarily. "In custody, along with the other custodian leaders. The Federation Security Council has launched a full investigation." "And you?" "Officially, I'm under surveillance as a person of interest." A small smile curved her lips. "Unofficially, I've been granted provisional status as a liaison between Academy leadership and the artifact research team. It seems being the only Velta to oppose the custodians has its advantages." Henry attempted to sit up, this time succeeding with Lena's help. The medical bay extended around them, other beds occupied by cadets injured during the attack. Through a large viewport, he could see repair crews working on the Academy's damaged sections. "What happened after I collapsed?" he asked. "Everything changed," Lena replied simply. The artifacts remained active for hours after you lost consciousness. They integrated with the Academy's systems in ways our engineers are still trying to comprehend. Admiral Zarvis entered the bay, his exoskeletal faceplates arranged in formal configuration. Cadet Westbrook, finally rejoined the living, I see. Admiral. Henry attempted a salute from his prone position. Save the formalities. You've earned a respite from protocol. Zarvis's compound eyes studied Henry with unmistakable curiosity. Our scientists have been analyzing the artifact integration. What you accomplished should have been impossible. To be fair, sir, I had no idea what I was doing. On the contrary, the artifacts responded to you precisely because you understood their purpose on an instinctive level. The Admiral's mandibles clicked in what might have been appreciation. The Federation Council has taken a special interest in your case. My case? The human who can interface with precursor technology, the cadet who single-handedly thwarted a custodian plot and revolutionized our understanding of artifacts that have been studied for centuries. Zarvis made a sound that might have been a chuckle. You've created quite a stir, Westbrook. What happens now, sir? Recovery first, then we have much to discuss regarding your future at the Academy. The Admiral moved toward the exit, then paused. The graduation ceremony has been postponed until next week. I expect you to be there, Westbrook. Both of you. After Zarvis departed, Henry turned to Lena. Graduation? I'm still a first-year cadet. Not anymore. Her fingers intertwined with his. The Council has authorized field promotions for those who distinguish themselves during the attack. You're being advanced directly to graduate status. And what about us? Henry asked quietly. With your father imprisoned and the custodians exposed. That depends, Lena replied, leaning closer. Are you still unsure whether a Velta could be interested in a human? I might need convincing. Her lips found his. Cool at first, but warming quickly. Unlike their desperate kiss in the asteroid shelter, this one held promise, of time, of possibility, of futures yet to unfold. When they separated, Henry noticed that her skin seemed to glow faintly from within, patterns visible beneath the surface pulsing in time with her heartbeat. Your skin, he whispered. It's reacting. Lena glanced down, surprise evident in her expression. That's unusual. Velta bioluminescence only activates during intense emotional states. A deeper purple flush colored her cheeks. It seems you affect me more than I realized. Before Henry could respond, the medical bay doors slid open. Kraz bounded in, mandibles clicking excitedly. You're awake, he exclaimed. About time. The entire Academy's been talking about nothing but you for days. Great, Henry groaned. Just what I needed. Fame. Fame? Try legendary status. Kraz's multifaceted eyes gleamed. They're calling you the precursor in the lower dormitories. Rumor has it the Federation Council wants to create a new division specifically to study your connection to the artifacts. Please tell me you're joking. He's not, confirmed Plex, floating into the room behind Kraz, tendrils undulating with excitement. Admiral Zarvis announced it yesterday. The Artifact Integration Division, with you as the primary research subject. Henry looked to Lena for help. She merely shrugged, amusement dancing in her eyes. You wanted to prove humanity belongs among the stars, she reminded him. You've certainly made your point. Epilogue. 2 years later, the newly commissioned Federation vessel Pathfinder glided through the quantum gate, emerging into uncharted space with perfect precision. On the bridge, Captain Henry Westbrook stood before the command interface, hands hovering over the neuroreceptors that connected him directly to the ship's systems. The Pathfinder represented a revolution in starship design, precursor technology seamlessly integrated with Federation engineering, creating a vessel capable of navigating pathways through space-time that conventional ships couldn't detect, let alone traverse. "Quantum transition complete," announced the navigation officer. "All systems nominal. Artifact integration stable at 98%, added Science Officer Kraz from his station, mandibles clicking with satisfaction. "Better than our previous jump." Henry nodded, feeling the ship's systems through his enhanced neural connection. The glowing pathways had become a constant in his perception, possibilities and probabilities extending outward like luminous rivers. After 2 years of training and adaptation, he had learned to filter the information, focusing only on what was immediately relevant. "Status of the survey team?" he asked. Commander Lena Vale Westbrook looked up from her console, silver hair now styled in the practical shortcut of a Federation officer, though still striking against her purple skin. The gold band on her finger matched the one on Henry's hand, a human tradition she had embraced with surprising enthusiasm. "Ready in Launch Bay 3, she reported, just waiting for final authorization. Their eyes met across the bridge, professional decorum doing little to mask the connection between them. The crew had grown accustomed to these moments, the silent communication that passed between the captain and his executive officer, a bond that transcended standard military relationships. "Give them the green light," Henry decided, "and have the science team prepare for preliminary artifact scans. If the readings from the probe are accurate, this system could contain the largest precursor installation we've discovered yet." The mission represented everything Henry had worked toward since that first day at the Academy: humanity's legitimate place among the stellar nations, the secrets of the precursors uncovered not for dominance but for connection, and a future where ancient technology served the greater good rather than factional interests. The defeat of the custodians had reshaped galactic politics. Professor Vale and his co-conspirators remained imprisoned, but their exposure had led to greater transparency in artifact research across Federation space. The Academy itself had been restructured, with humans now admitted in growing numbers after Henry's connection to the precursor technology revealed previously unknown genetic markers in Earth's population. "Penny for your thoughts, Captain?" Lena asked quietly as she joined him at the forward viewport, the uncharted system spread before them in all its glory. "Just appreciating how far we've come," Henry replied, "from the human cadet who couldn't fly straight to this." "To be fair, you still occasionally fly into things," she teased, the formality of her commander role slipping away when others couldn't overhear. "Only when I'm distracted by my brilliant and unreasonably attractive executive officer." Lena's skin flickered with subtle bioluminescence, a response she had never quite learned to control around him. "The Federation Council transmission is scheduled for 20 minutes from now. They're expecting your preliminary report on the system. They can wait an extra 5 minutes. Henry gestured toward his ready room adjacent to the bridge. "I need to discuss something with you privately, Commander." Once the door closed behind them, Henry pulled Lena into his arms, professional pretense abandoned. Her cool lips found his with practiced familiarity yet undiminished passion. "That was very unprofessional, Captain," she murmured against his mouth. "Sue me," he replied, tracing the luminescent patterns beneath her skin with gentle fingers. "I've been waiting to do that all shift." Lena laughed, the sound still a rare and precious thing that Henry treasured. "Is that really why you called me in here?" "Partly." He stepped back, suddenly serious. "The medical officer confirmed it this morning. The genetic compatibility procedure worked. We're going to be parents." Lena's eyes widened, golden pupils dilating with emotion. The patterns beneath her skin flared brilliantly, illuminating her entire body with jubilant light. "You're certain?" she whispered. 100%. Henry took her hands in his. "The first human Velta child in recorded history. Our medical team is already designing a specialized prenatal program." "A child," Lena repeated, wonder in her voice. "Our child. The ultimate connection between our species." Henry smiled, pressing his forehead against hers. "The precursors would approve, I think." Their moment was interrupted by the communications panel. Bridge to Captain Westbrook. We're receiving priority transmission from Federation headquarters. Admiral Xarvis requests immediate conference. Duty calls, Lena sighed, composing herself though the glow beneath her skin continued to pulse. They can have the captain for now, Henry said, stealing one more kiss. But later, you get the husband all to yourself. As they returned to the bridge, Henry felt the familiar resonance of the precursor technology integrated throughout the ship. The glowing pathways of possibility stretched before him, more numerous and vibrant than ever. One path shone brightest of all, the one he and Lena walked together, bridging worlds, connecting species, creating a future neither could have imagined on that first day at the Academy. The human who had once been the Academy's greatest mistake had become the galaxy's greatest hope. And as the Pathfinder carried them deeper into uncharted space, Henry Westbrook knew with absolute certainty that he was exactly where he belonged, among the stars, with the woman he loved, charting courses no one had traveled before. The end.